أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Our today's video is about variable in data, in statistic. So what is variable? What is data that we will be discussing today? First, we'll be talking about variable. Variable is any property or characteristic of an object, place, or person that varies from person to person, from place to place, and from object to object is called a variable. For example, in a human being, blood pressure is one type of variable. Blood pressure cannot remain constant in all the individual or human beings. If you check the blood pressure or measure the blood pressure of one person and then another person, there would be a difference in the blood pressure from one person to another person. When you measure the blood pressure of the first person, it may give you the reading of 120/80. Whereas when you check the blood pressure of another person, that may give you a reading of 170/10, and so on. So today, and there are different types of variables. So let me share you the whiteboard, and we will be explaining these variables through a diagram, a flow chart. So let me share you the flow chart. Variable as I said, any property or characteristic of a person, place, or object is called a variable. And as I have already shared with you an example of blood pressure. For example, BP or blood pressure in human being. When you check blood pressure of one human being, for example, first human being may give you a blood pressure of 120/80. And if you check the blood pressure of the second person, it may give you a blood pressure of 170/110 or something like that, mm of Hg. mm of Hg. And this is also mm of Hg. So there is a variation from one person to another person while you are measuring the blood pressure of two human beings, and so on. If you take a sample of 200 or 300 people, there may be some individual who will, when you measure the blood pressure, they may take the values which are similar to each other. For example, if you check a blood pressure of one person, that may give you 120/80 mm of Hg. And if you check the blood pressure of a person who comes on number 50th, he or she may also give you the same reading, 120/80. That is called the frequency. So out of 200 or 300, there may be some individual who may give you the same blood pressure, but not all the human beings. And when all the human beings cannot give you the same reading, it means there is a variation from one person to another person. Similarly, when we talk about the object, for example, fan. If you buy a fan, for example, park fan, and another one is millet pen, there may be a difference in the speed of these two fans. So speed is the quality of these two fans, park fan and the millet fan. It may be faster than this one. The speed of this millet fan may be higher than this one. So that is a quality. So fan of one company may give you a different quality from another company. So that is a difference in the from object to object. And similarly, from place to place, when you compare the temperature of one place to another place, there may be a difference in the temperature. For example, the temperature of Peshawar may be different from Murree. It may be different from Abbottabad or any other place in Pakistan. Peshawar may give you a different temperature than Sibbi, which has got higher temperature in summer season. So that is a variation in temperature from place to place. So variation from place to place, variation from object to object, and variation from person to person. The example is blood pressure, here is temperature, and here is the speed. You may take other examples as well for object, for place, and even for human being. There are so many variables in human beings. For example, it could be a blood pressure, it could be height, it could be weight, it could be eyesight, it could be skin color, it could be hair distribution, it could be voice, so many, it could be blood chemistry. For example, triglyceride may be different of one person to another person. When you measure it in the laboratory, one person may give you a different result from another person. So that is also a variable. Now let me make the flow chart of the variables. So variables is basically is divided into two major types: qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is further divided. Qualitative is also called categorical. It is also called a categorical variable or qualitative variable. It is further divided into two types: nominal and ordinal. Nominal is that type of categorical variable which does not have a rank, only categories. For example, male and female. For example, male and female. There is no rank in male and female. These are two categories. And ordinal, on the other hand, it has a rank. Rank, for example, first position, second position, and third position. Similarly, if you take an example of social classes, so poor, middle, and rich, upper class. Rich people are upper class. Upper class. So these are the two examples of ordinal data. The interval that we have in ordinal data is meaningless. For example, first position, second position, and third position. The interval does not carry equal distance. Like in the first position, second, and third position, you cannot say there is a difference of 2 or 3, and there is a difference of 2 or 3 between the second and third position. A person who stood first may take A grade with 80 marks, and the second position, he may take 79 marks, and the third person may take 72 marks for the third position. So there is a difference of 7 marks, and there is a difference of only 1 mark. So the gap between these two positions, it does not remain the same. So the interval in ordinal data between these categories between these ranks, yeah, across these ranks does not remain the same. It is not equal. So it is meaningless. The distance is meaningless. The gap is meaningless. The interval is meaningless. On the other hand, we have a quantitative variable in which we have discrete, and continuous. Let me draw another flow chart for this. For example, quantitative, further divided into discrete and continuous variable. Discrete variable is that type of quantitative variable which takes whole number, For example, number of children. You cannot say 2.5 children or 3.5 children. It will definitely take the whole number. For example, 3 children, 5 children, 0 children, 1 child, 2 children. It will take the whole number. So in discrete variable, if you count up, if you measure this variable and you take a value after measurement, that will not be in decimal. It will take the whole number. And on the other hand, continuous variable, it takes decimal within the number. For example, blood pressure could be 120.5 by 90.5. We cannot count 0.5 or 0.5 because it does not make any difference. If a person has 121 or 120 mm of Hg systolic blood pressure and 90 or 90.5 diastolic blood pressure, and if we do not count 0.5, 0.5 upper and above and below in systolic and diastolic, it does not make any difference. But when the patient is in ICU or critical care unit and 0.5 and 0.25, it really matters. Then you have, whenever you take a blood pressure, you have to count those digits as well after the decimal. So as in ICU, an emergency or any other critical unit, if it makes the difference, means there is a rise or there is a reduction in the blood pressure and the patient condition going towards good prognosis or bad prognosis, only then you can put a decimal and you can take the blood pressure in points. Otherwise, it is not necessary for those patients who are in general ward. So that is a continuous variable. In continuous variable, we have weight, we have height, we have glucose level, and so many continuous variable within the human body. So that is all about the variable. Now let me talk about the data. What is data? Data are the information taken on variable in numerical form. For example, if we have blood pressure 120 by 80 mm of Hg, what does that mean? Blood pressure is the variable, whereas when you measure the blood pressure of a person and it gives you 120 by 80, so this is actually the data. This is the data because that comes when you measure the variable in numerical form, that will give you a digit and that is called a data. So data has also two types. One is qualitative data or categorical data. You can also say it categorical data. And the second one is quantitative data. Categorical is further divided into nominal data or the second type is ordinal data. And here in quantitative we have interval data and ratio scale data. Ratio scale data. Nominal data is that type of data which when you code it, for example, male and female, you code male as 1 for male and 2 for female. And whenever you further analyze it statistically, you can say there are 10% male and 90% female and so on. Or out of 100, there were 40 male and 60 female. So you are just counting the frequency of male and female of these two categories. Whereas in ordinal data, for example, pain, when you want to measure it, it may be mild, moderate, or severe pain. For mild, you can code it as 1. For moderate, you can code it as 2. And for severe, you can code it 3. So you have to determine then the frequency whenever you analyze it statistically. How many people were there with mild pain? How many people were there with moderate pain? And how many patients were there with severe pain? So that is a type of ordinal data. In quantitative data, we have interval type of data. In interval data, we have arbitrary zero. Arbitrary zero means the zero doesn't mean a zero, absence of something. For example, temperature. If you have 0 degree Celsius temperature, it doesn't mean the absence of temperature. It means you have a reduced temperature up to 0 degree centigrade, but it doesn't mean the 0 carries a meaning of absence, or 0 means absence. It is not meant, the 0 doesn't mean an absence of something. The temperature is really there, but it has reduced up to 0. It may reduce up to -1, -2, -3, and so on. And whereas in ratio scale data, you have true zero. True zero means when something has got a value of 0 or something which has 0 means the absence of something. What does that mean? Whenever you get a 0 for ratio scale data, to further explain it, it means the absence of something. For example, if you have nothing in your pocket, no money in your pocket, we would call it as 0 money. And 0 money means the absence of money. The absence of money. So that is called a ratio scale data. So that was all about the variable and the data. You can give your comment. If you have any query or question, you can write your comments, and inshallah that will be answered in other lecture or video. Thank you very much.